directed towards you and your book. I recently read a story in the New York Post detailing how there is a concerted effort by people associated with Hillary Clinton to stop people from looking at your book. Amazon getting all these one-star reviews all at once, and they're all coming from a certain office on Pierpont Street in Brooklyn, right, Roger?
Absolutely true. This is why I need the help of your listeners, Gene. The Clintonites don't want this to become a New York Times bestseller because it makes it much harder for the mainstream media to ignore it if it does. So we have traced all these so-called negative one-star reviews on Amazon to an IP address at the Clinton headquarters in Brooklyn. The ones that aren't from there are from an IP address at Media Matters for America, which is a front organization for a bunch of twisted freaks, panty-wearing fanboys of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, that is run by the well-known midget and former conservative David Brock. So, yes, the mainstream media is trying to suppress this book. I was supposed to be on MSNBC yesterday. They sent a car to pick me up. They canceled 45 minutes before my interview with some lame excuse about the segment being double booked. I called my contacts at MSNBC, which are quite good, and one of my friends checked in it, and he came back to me and he said, yes, corporate had pressure from the Clintons. This is Soviet-style censorship. So I asked your listeners, go to rogerstone.com or go to clintonswar.com, no apostrophe, clintonswar.com, either one. You can buy the book online. I need to make this a New York Times bestseller, not only because I want to recover my costs, because I have 2 years' work into the research and writing for this book, but also because I want to make it impossible for CNN and CBS and NBC to ignore.
Well, we're going to do our part for sure, because thanks to you and thanks to people at Skyhorse, we're going to be giving away a copy of the book to a lucky listener on next week's show. So we're going to make sure, Roger, we get the word out about the book 100%. I can't wait to pick it up and read it myself. I know that there's a copy in transit to me right now. It's going to be my train read for the next couple of weeks. Can't wait for it. Before I let you go, I do have to ask one question. Again, wouldn't be doing my job unless I was asking a question about your former client, Donald Trump. I just wanted to ask, not so much about your relationship with him, because that's all been done. I wanted to ask what you feel is your impression of him as far as if he is willing to listen to advisors going forward now. He's going to be transitioning now from first impression to developing a real operation, 50 states across the nation. Will he be able to be coachable, in your opinion, and be able to sustain the growth that he's put himself on the path to?
Well, first of all, let me say that my relationship with him is fine. I spoke to him today. I speak to him every couple days. We've been friends for 35 years, and I strongly support his campaign for president. I really do believe that only Trump can make America great again. Only Trump has the independence, financial independence, and the guts to take on the special interests. All these other candidates are funded by lobbyists and special interests and the Koch brothers and the super PACs. And Donald's right. All that money has strings on it. Donald Trump is nobody's man but yours. And that's really why I support him. Whether or not he can take advice remains to be seen. Look, without advice, he seems to be doing pretty darn well. He's leading, in every major state. There's a poll out today that shows that he has slipped behind Ben Carson by 1 point in Iowa. I'm not sure I believe it. It may be an outlier. But so far, so good. He is running an unconventional campaign. And frankly, I think it's one of the reasons why he struck a chord with voters. He is unscripted. He is uncoached. He is uncontrolled and uncontrollable. You can't buy Trump. You can't bully Trump. That's why, in my view, he's the only man that can save this country and the only candidate running this year, that I feel would take Hillary on. You got to get in her face. Does anyone think Marco Rubio is going to ask her the tough questions? Ask her about serial rape and the cover-ups that she has orchestrated? Ask her about Bill's drug use and why Hillary served as the lawyer for the biggest drug kingpin in the state of Arkansas, getting him a pardon from Bill Clinton? These questions need to be directly asked, and only Donald Trump has the gumption to ask them.
When it comes to these topics, Roger, you're the man, I believe. You don't get to be where you are and 40 years of experience in national politics and presidential politics at that without developing a tremendous amount of credibility. Folks, go get this book. The Clintons' War on Women. Check out clintonswar.com, rogerstone.com. Roger Stone, you are the man. Thank you so much for doing this interview. Look forward to talking to you in the near future.
Thanks for having me.
And that was Roger Stone talking about his experiences with Donald Trump, talking about his book about the Clinton crime family, which is a great book. You should check it out where fine books are sold. And listen, that's typifies the kind of year we had. Getting Roger Stone on a like I said, a rinky-dink show like ours, kind of a coup. You know, it was kind of a big deal for us, and we're so appreciative that he was able to come on. And, you know, kind of got me thinking, like, when I say rinky-dink show like ours, and we're discussing the idea of fake news, and the idea, you know, of partisan news sites and things like that, that seems to be the big carrying call, I guess, of the liberal nowadays. Let me make it clear for those who may be just joining us on WLBB or any one of our other rebroadcast outlets, or found us on podcasts, or are listening to us at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. We are not a news show. We have opinions, and we express them quite vociferously here behind enemy lines. We're not looking for people to come to us to expect quote-unquote fair and balanced coverage. We have an opinion. We follow the news. We give you our take on the news. We give you our slant on the news. This is slanted coverage. Our view is askew. We tend to lean right. We try to be fair, but we tend to lean right. And listen, we're not going to hide who we are and what we do. We are a talk show. And I think this is what the left doesn't get a lot of the time, is that opinions are okay to have. It's not okay to masquerade as news. I'm looking right at you, CNN, and have opinions. And yet, you know, I don't get what in the world all these liberals are having their heads explode over. They've been such mainstream news coverage that has been slanted left for so long and so many years that's finally been exposed. I mean, Glenn Thrush in those Podesta emails saying, you know, don't show anybody that I'm showing you this ahead of time, and what do you think of it, and all that. And then he gets a job with the New York Times. You know, I mean, come on, folks. If you don't know that news has been skewed for some time, and quote unquote fake news can come from mainstream sources, then you're not doing it right. You gotta really open your eyes and see what's out there. If you really want pure news, go to the source. Go to places like the AP or Reuters where they post transcripts of press conferences. Or, you know, look up the secondaries, go look up what the secondary sources don't give you. Go right to the primary. And if you're on one of those quote unquote fake news sites and you want to see what's what and who's who, a lot of times they have links to other stories that will be more quote unquote reputable sites. Check those out. Don't be a passive listener. Don't be a passive consumer. Do your work, do your research, do your job, and be responsible in the choices that you make. And we're glad that you're making this responsible choice of listening to us, even if our opinions are skewed a little bit. The next interview we're going to present to you is from our friend Sam Sorbo. Sam, part of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network and one of our dear close friends. Happy to say she is a friend of the show, and we were more than happy to talk to her about her views on school choice, and specifically homeschooling, in which she too has written a book. So check out this interview we did with Sam Sorbo. On the line with me right now, it is a pleasure to welcome to the show, well, maybe not a pleasure because she's kind of the competition, syndicated radio show host, author, mother of 3 beautiful children, Sam Sorbo. Sam, how are you?
Really? Are you also the mother of 3 beautiful children?
No, I'm saying you are. Stop it.
You said I was.
How are you?
I'm just trying to identify how. No,
well, I'm not an author. I'm on a station and a half, maybe, and no kids. So
no kids.
So,
okay.
So
well,
yeah, unfortunately, not there yet. But a beautiful nephew who you may hear in the background doing his ABCs in the back.
Awesome. Now,
so,
tell me, does he go to public school?
Yes, he does. He goes to the same public school I went to, PS 52 here in Brooklyn, New York.
Wow. Okay. All right.
And
well,
so far,
things have changed since you went to school.
Oh my goodness, have they ever? I used to have, when I went to high school, metal detectors, security pat-downs, all that fun stuff. All the stuff that parents can avoid if they follow your advice in your book, They're Your Kids. Tell everybody about your experiences with homeschooling.
So there, your kids is an inspirational, I hope, journey from self-doubter to homeschool advocate. I used to laugh at homeschooling. It just didn't seem realistic to me. But the more convinced I became that the schools were failing my children, the more I realized I was going to have to do it myself. And it's almost a circular thing, because the more you do for yourself, the more capable you realize you are, that you never really understood before. And I've realized now that our schools are training us to think that we are inadequate. And so I get a lot of pushback from people that I talk to. I go, have you considered homeschooling? They're, oh no, I could never do that. And I have to ask them, okay, so you're saying that you're inadequate to teach a third grader or a fourth grader, but you graduated from the public school system that made you that inadequate, and you're okay with sending your child there, and you know that it's worse now than it was when you attended school, because everybody agrees the schools are worse, right? They haven't improved.
I think that's fair to say, especially when you talk about the public school system. And they're trying here in the People's Republic of New York City to put the Band-Aid of charter schools there, so it makes it more selective and more competitive. So now only certain kids get a good quality education versus others. And a lot of it has to do, in my opinion, with the way that unions have strangleholds over communities and schools nowadays.
The teachers' unions are the biggest political donor. So you tell me.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. The UFT is the most powerful thing here in, like I said, the People's Republic of New York. But parents can kind of circumvent all that. All of the curriculum that they don't want to deal with, the curriculum they don't want to deal with, school professionals who are just frustrating as all get out, and any sort of fears that come from the negative socialization of bullying and, feeling inadequate and low self-esteem that may come with a negative school environment. But how can a parent who is, like you, Sam, professional, on the go, in demand, do that and balance, your child's upbringing and schoolwork?
Well, here's the thing. I can't compromise on my kids. I can't. So, yeah, I do a talk show. I do a show every day, 3 hours a day. I have all that. I don't sleep much. I don't play much. But I play with my kids. I have my kids, and I do the show. And I make it work because if I couldn't make it work, I would be not doing the show. But there are a lot of different ways to homeschool. I have friends who, and I think this is brilliant too, they didn't want to take on the whole education thing, so they hired, at less than what it would cost them to send their kids to private school, they hired retired school teachers. But they went and they chose the curriculum. They invested at least that much so they know what their kids are learning, because believe me, you don't know what your kids are learning in school. And you might be very surprised if they would tell you honestly what they're teaching the kids, but they won't. In fact, if you go to the school and ask to see certain tests, they will deny you that right. And so my friends just hire, they actually hire one teacher per class, which you could get away with, one teacher for 2 or 3 kids, certainly. And the teacher comes to their house 4 hours a day and does all of the work with the kids. And then the rest of the day, the kids are free to pursue whatever other endeavors they want.
It definitely sounds like something that more parents may want to explore. I think when it comes to especially inner city and urban parents, there is, unfortunately, an apathy there, a feeling of entitlement that this isn't my job, this is somebody else's job, because their parents weren't there for them as well. How do you break that cycle in inner city schools and bring this idea to them that, well, you can do this yourself, and you can instill the values and the value of education yourself and not have to farm out your brain and farm out your kids' brains to government?
Well, obviously, that's the point of my book, although I think you're making a generalization that doesn't necessarily apply. They feel entitled because they're paying for it. We are paying the government to educate our children. Is the government fulfilling their end of the bargain? No. And so we keep getting new directives. This is like the 12th new overhaul of our school system in maybe twice as many years. I mean, it's nearly yearly now, this new overhaul, this newfangled plan. And I have to ask you, they implemented Common Core. Ask them for the proof that it works. There is none. They never tested it. That's
what we hear from a lot of parents here as well. We hear, Common Core is here in New York, and virtually every school district that I hear about has a group of parents that is fighting unsuccessfully to get rid of Common Core, and it seems like the state is unwilling to do so.
They have to take their kids out of the school. They have to deprive the school of the funds that follow the children. They deprive the